Welcome to the 10-Minute Car Sales Talk Podcast, where it's all about life in the car business. Telling you like it is, here's the man with the plan, Terry Cameron.
I'm Terry Cameron. Thanks for hanging out with me for another episode of the 10-Minute Car Sales Talk Podcast. Hey guys, before we get started, remember, head on over to iTunes or whatever platform you listen to this from and give me a 5-star review. Maybe write a comment or two. I sure would appreciate it. If you have any questions, I'd appreciate those also. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn. You can go to the 10minutesalestalk.com website, reach me through there, or email me at the number 10minutesalestalk at hot.rr.com. You know, my dad was and still is a career roofer, one of the hardest working men I've ever met. And whenever it was time to get down to work, if he were a little bit behind schedule, he'd instill some urgency in all of his employees, me included. Now, his definition of urgency is barking out a command, something like, "I want to see nothing but asses and elbows. We got to get this job done." Maybe he'd throw a bonus, something else in there to motivate us and the rest of the employees. But whatever he did, it worked. Now, Webster's definition of urgency is calling for immediate attention. They even throw in some other words like acute, critical, dire, imperative. Sounds like it's an important word. Well, that word urgency seems to be falling out of our vocabulary at the dealership level. Now, I know my district sales manager senses the urgency because he has corporate on him all day, every day. But when it gets down to the dealership level, I'm starting to see urgency less and less. I don't know, maybe it's that 12th place trophy that we gave to all the employees when they showed up at their soccer game when they were a kid. But for some reason, the urgency just isn't there. I don't see it, I don't hear it. And it's not just our sales force, it's our managers also. Hell, sometimes it's our senior management that lacks urgency, or at least the ability to express how important urgency is to them. Well, we need the urgency. Managers, it's your responsibility to instill urgency in your salespeople. And salespeople, you need to develop a sense of urgency because eventually you have to pass that on to your sales or onto your customers. And without enthusiasm and a sense of urgency, you're not going to be able to do that. We want that customer buying from you because they're talking to you. We want them buying it from your dealership because they're at your dealership. We want them buying it today, right now, because they're here today, right now. And we want them driving it home, telling all their friends about how they enjoyed their experience at the dealership. So let's talk about how we can instill urgency in our customer. First of all, you have to remember that major purchases are emotional purchases. I remember going to the local Sam's Club when it first opened up, and as I was walking through there, pushing the huge railroad buggy around with my wife, I came across a 200-foot garden hose. Now, I don't know what it was about that garden hose, but I think we just purchased a house, and all I could find were 50 and 75-foot garden hoses. I wanted the longest one, so I could use maybe one for the entire job. So I threw that sucker on that cart, and as we moseyed around throughout Sam's buying our bulk heat-em-up burritos and 500 pack of toilet paper, I started to think about it, and I decided I really didn't need that 200-foot garden hose. I started thinking about how heavy that thing was going to be when it was full of water, about the chore it was going to be to unroll it and roll it back up. So I kind of slid it off the cart and just left it there in the middle of the aisle. So what happened here is I saw that garden hose, I was enthusiastic about it, and I wanted it. Well, if I would have went straight to the checkout counter, I would have owned it. But because I wandered throughout the store with my wife, logic set in, and I realized I didn't really need that one. The 50 and 75-foot hoses I had at home would work just fine. Well, that happens with our customers all the time also. Speed kills when we're on the lot. We need to slow down when we're on the lot, when we're doing our building, when we're doing our value building out there, when we're doing our presentation and our demonstration, trying to sell the dealership, trying to sell yourself. we need to slow down and let them just soak all of that stuff up. Now, what happens when we're finished with that demo drive and we hop on inside and sit down at the closing table, the ether starts wearing off, and now logic starts to set in. The customers start thinking like, well, the car we have is really not that bad after all. Or we've been going 2 years without a car payment. I don't know if I'm ready to make a car payment. So when we sit down at the closing table, we need some urgency. Speed kills on the lot, slow kills inside. So we got to sit down and we've got to write them up really quick. And here's where we make our big mistake. We write them up. We're going to get all their information. We're going to run to the sales tower and we're going to get some numbers. And that's exactly what we tell the customer we're going to do. We're going to go get some numbers. Here's what I'd like you to try every once in a while is when you're away from the desk, look back and see what they're doing. Back in my day, I wasn't really too concerned about what they were doing. But now they've got their cell phone in front of them and they decide to shop. They can look everywhere else and find out what they're going for at another dealership. Hell, they can even call that dealership while they're sitting there waiting for you to come back. So here's what I want you to do. We've demoed them. We've got them so excited. They're enthusiastic. They want to buy this car. We're sitting down. You gathered all their information. You're asking all these questions. The ether's starting to wear off. I want you to just tell them, hey, guys, I'm going to go check availability of this vehicle. We have 10, 12 other salespeople here. This just happens to be one of our most popular models or most popular colors, or this might just be the only one we have, whatever the case may be. And at our dealership, it's first come, first serve. So I just want to make sure there's no other deals working on this before we go any further. Imagine what's going through the customer's head at this time. So you're going to say to the customer, I'm going to go check availability. And if the car is available, can I tell my manager that you're ready to do business right now? And I'd like you to emphasize the now. If you've done your job up to that point, you're going to get a now. If you don't get a now, you sit right back down and you ask them, why not now? What's that one thing other than? Whatever you have to do to find out what the true objection is. But when they do say, yes, we're ready to do business right now, and you head back to the sales tower, husband and wife are going to look at each other and say, wow, we did all this. We really love the vehicle. We get this far, and now he tells me that somebody else may be purchasing it, that we may not be able to get it. Well, guys, what happens at that time, it eliminates the we need to think it over objection. They're thinking now, hey, if we have to go think it over, we may lose out on this car, on this deal. So there is a sense of urgency for them to do business right now. You get your numbers from the manager, head back, smiling at them, and before you sit down, you reach out and shake their hands. And you tell them, congratulations, guys, we lucked out. The car is still available. And because you told me you're ready to do business right now, my manager took the liberty of working up some figures for you. Let's go over them. I think when you present figures to a customer that way, you have a much greater chance of closing them on the first pencil, especially if that pencil includes several different purchase options. I think you need to try this and see what happens. I've been doing this for an awful long time, and that works for me better than almost any other closing tool that I've ever used. You need the urgency. Now, when I'm talking about urgency, you got to beat feet back to the sales desk. You got to get back and head right back over to them really quick. You got to show the sense of urgency too. You need to show them that, hey, you want to make this sale before the other salesperson does. If you're not showing urgency, they're not going to believe the urgency you're asking them to have. So remember, asses and elbows, that's all we need to see. Whether it's the beginning of the week, beginning of the month, or beginning of the year, urgency is going to take you to the next level, especially when your customers feel that urgency also. One more time, I'm going to ask you to hop on over to iTunes, whatever you listen to me on, and give me that 5-star rating and write a review. I guess what happens when you do write a review, it moves me a little bit closer to the top. I don't ever expect to get to the top, but it moves me closer, and then more people have the opportunity to listen to this podcast. Hit that share button and tell all your friends about the podcast. Again, remember, the sky's the limit. I'll see you next week.